Hi traders, Hubert here from Elliott Currency, back to business after a summer holiday break. In today's video I will be giving you an introduction and a general overview on how to use guide on our new Elliott wave summary that we've created a few weeks ago. So let's get straight into it. So first of all, the reasons why I created this Elliott wave guide is because here at Elliott Currency we do use Elliott wave analysis a lot, as many of you probably know who follow us, and therefore of course the traders who are with us tend to be in general interested in Elliott wave analysis. So we thought that we would provide our own comprehensive summary of Elliott wave theory and all the applicable rules and guidelines that are so essential to applying Elliott wave analysis correctly. So yeah, with this intention I created this guide. I'm aware that there are quite a few Elliott wave guides out there on the internet, but I've found in my experience that many of them were either lacking some information or some of the rules were not exactly explained very well, and I found that there was a need still to provide really one solid comprehensive guide that covers all bases, including a couple of areas where there is some debate on how Elliott wave analysis is applied correctly. And so I've mentioned this in this guide as well, so that you can make informed decisions for yourself as your experience grows. This guide is for anybody who is interested in Elliott waves and wants to use Elliott waves in their chart analysis. It's a fantastic resource in the sense that you have everything you need to know in one place. It's completely comprehensive, and therefore it should speed up your learning process, because this is like many things, the real knowledge, the real integration of Elliott wave analysis comes by doing it and applying it, but you need to have all the knowledge at hand, and that's often what's missing. When you start out applying Elliott waves, you know some basic things but not everything, and then it can be that the learning process gets stretched out because for some time you have certain assumptions that aren't quite right. But this guide should set you out on the right foot from the start. So having said all of this, let's get into how to use this guide. First and foremost, this is supposed to be a reference guide, meaning that you don't have to learn it from start to finish and memorize everything. It's meant to be a reference while you are analyzing charts and applying your wave count to make sure that your counts are following all the rules, and to evaluate whether the key guidelines, which are so to speak most common in your wave counts, whether you are following them reasonably well. So it's meant to be a practical help rather than a theoretical study. And so if we get into some more details now, the guide itself, as you look at it, there is an introduction here, which is called Important Concepts to Remember Before Applying Elliott Wave Counts, which basically covers some key concepts that are important to always bear in mind. So this is perhaps the only section in the entire guide that's worth reading through initially, and to really remember everything that's written in here, because there are some important concepts that can often be ignored somewhat. For example, the alternation guideline is a really important one. I won't get into the details here because you can read it yourself, but this is one aspect, for example. And then also the balanced proportion, I think, is another extremely important factor that improves your Elliott wave analysis if you keep that in mind. So this section is important to start out with. But then after that, you basically go into the summary of all the rules and guidelines that applies to the different Elliott wave patterns. Each section starts with a visual drawing of the actual pattern that is being discussed, In this case here, we're talking about the main impulse wave. So you actually getting all the different variations that impulses can have with different extensions before the actual rules and guidelines start, which start just below the drawings here. And here you can see that the rules and guidelines are divided into three sections. Essentially, you have the rules, which are the essential parts which the pattern must fulfill. Guidelines are always those things that are not fixed rules as such. They don't have to be fulfilled, but they are most commonly occurring. So it's always important to make sure that your wave counts tend towards these guidelines whenever possible. And then you also have a detailed summary of all the Fibonacci retracement and extension guidelines, which you get a visual reference for in the images, in the associated images, which is why you have two sets of the same pattern, two drawings of the same pattern for each pattern. So here, for example, on the left hand side, you see the Fibonacci extension ratios that are relating to wave 1, 3, and 5, which is also again summarized down here. And on the right hand side, you always get the Fibonacci retracement ratios, which relate to wave 2 and 4. So that's the reason why you're getting two drawings of the same pattern here. And in that same fashion, the whole guide continues. You essentially get one pattern after the next, diagonals, and then we're moving into corrective patterns afterwards here, starting off with simple zigzags, and then getting all the way to the more complicated patterns here down below at the complex combinations. So it's the same principle all along. You get everything you need to know below the images. And one note here, for example, there are a couple of areas where I've highlighted that there is some difference in opinion as to what the rules exactly are in certain situations. There is some debate in these areas, so I've mentioned these points so that you can make your own decision and make your own observations as you go along, and then decide for yourself how you want to apply the rules in that particular scenario. Other than that, this guide should be self-explanatory, so just keep using it as you practice your wave counts, and it will be an ongoing aid until you've integrated all the information that's written in here. That's it for today. I hope that you found this little introduction to our Elliott Wave Guide useful. If you have any questions, email us at info@elliotecurrency.com or contact us through our social media on Twitter and Facebook. Until then, I wish you all the best and happy Elliott Wave analysis. Bye bye.